99 women without men. Warm flesh and blood behind cold iron bars. Driven beyond the limits of endurance. Forced to perform degrading acts which strip them of all humanity. No names, only numbers. No future, only the past. No hope, only despair. And a desperate instinct for survival. Whisper to your friend that you saw it.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna kiss me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that's...
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
Welcome once again to the American International Podcast. My name is Jeff Markin.
My name is Cheryl Lightfoot.
And today we're going to explore the creation of a new genre of film with 99 women.
We created a new genre? Didn't we take a genre in a new direction?
There were women in prison films, but the women in prison genre and all the tropes that are in started with this film.
Except for one.
What was that?
No shower scene.
Wow.
That's actually listed as one of the goofs on IMDb for this movie. The only goof is that there's no shower scene. 99 Women was directed by Jess Franco. The screenplay is by Peter Welbeck, a pseudonym for Harry Alan Towers, who produced the movie Four Towers of London.
99 Women was initially released by Commonwealth United Productions Incorporated, and most of the Commonwealth United library was later acquired by AIP, and many of these acquired titles were released under AIP's own banner, including this one.
99 Women stars Maria Schell as Inspector Leonie Caroll, Herbert Loam as Governor Santos, Mercedes McCambridge as Superintendent Thelma Diaz, Luciana Paluzzi as Natalie Mendoza, number 98, Maria Rohn, or Rohn as the credits lister, as Marie, number 99, Rosalba Neri as Zoie, number 76, Elisa Montes as Helga, number 97, Valentina Godoy as Rosalie, number 81, and the following uncredited performers: Jose Maria Blanco as the Doctor, Claudia Gravy as Grace, and Juan Antonio Riquelme as Juan Diego.
So the film 99 Women opens with a shot of a decomposing body. This is some sort of an animal. Can't really tell what it is. Maybe a pig or a sheep or something.
Cow? It's hard to tell.
It doesn't look woolly. It's probably not a sheep.
It's hard to tell the scale, the size, and we don't see a head, just like a stray hoof trailing off the body.
And in the distance, we see a man is standing on a promontory, looking out at a boat that's coming in, and the song "The Day I Was Born" begins to play.
For the first time, but not the last time. In the boat stand a can-can dancer, a spy, and a very worried woman in a turtleneck. It's a redhead, a blonde, and a brunette. We don't get to know their names for a while, so that's how I refer to them until that point.
The blonde looks like Helga from The Million Eyes of Sumeru. The redhead we recognize as Contessa Giuliana Giotto Borgini from Muscle Beach Party.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. But she's a redhead.
And the brunette, I don't think we've ever seen before.
No, but she is dressed like a can-can dancer for some reason. The blonde is wearing a trench coat. She's not really a spy. There's also a guard standing there. The blonde in the trench coat wonders where this boat is taking them. The can-can brunette says, "Over there." She points to a castle sitting atop a cliff. The dancer starts picking on the redhead, who's sitting in the boat looking very worried indeed. She says, "What's eating you?" And when the redhead doesn't answer, she starts talking about her sentence. 3 years, and the dancer says, "They don't have the medicine that you need over there." All of these women are wearing a lot of makeup right now, I should say. I guess we're supposed to assume that the redhead is jonesing for a fix right now, from her comments. Then she gives us, the audience, a brief history of this prison. It was built by the Spaniards, and they named it Castillo de la Muerte, Castle of Death, says the redhead. And then the credits roll.
As the song plays on, the women are unloaded off the boat, placed in a truck, and taken to the prison. As they're standing outside waiting to find out their fates, Thelma Diaz, the prison superintendent, comes out to receive the new arrivals.
She's wearing a military uniform of some kind, a bad wig, and her accent is impenetrable. I can't tell if she's trying to be German or Hispanic. It's something, all right.
A guard tells Thelma that their papers are all in order, and Thelma has her people put a coffin in the truck from which they just emerged, and she explains that this was the body of an inmate that was found dead this morning and alludes to it being a suicide. She says that she was stupid. She would have been eligible for release very soon. And then Thelma says that evidently she didn't want to leave them.
The redheaded woman looks extremely worried at this point, and spoiler, she should be.
Then Thelma orders the new arrivals be brought in for inspection.
Inside, she asks the redhead her name. She replies, Natalie Mendoza, but instead of a pleased to meet you, she gets slapped twice. She doesn't have a name, snarls the superintendent, just a number.
Natalie's number is 98.
The superintendent nods, then moves on to the brunette.
She asks the brunette, who are you? And the brunette obediently answers number 97. Thelma recognizes her as a past guest at the prison, and 97 confirms that she had been released only a year ago, but now she's back.
The superintendent asks how long she's going to be there, and number 97 says she's going to be there for 1 year. And the superintendent, Thelma, snarks, provided that you behave. She reiterates that from now on, these prisoners have no names, only a number. She says, you have no future, only the past. She goes on, you have no hope, only regrets. You have no friends, only me. She never does interview the blonde girl here.
Now we're in the prison cell, and the new arrivals have just been brought to their new home. Number 98, Natalie, looks very uncomfortable.
She looks cold. There's several women in the cell already, but she goes off to a cell by herself and lays down on her pallet.
We're not introduced to her yet, but we meet Zoie, who is kind of the kingpin in this prison. We can tell by her lack of modesty.
Yeah, and her thigh-high black stockings and tiny black underpants.
Zoie welcomes them and tells them to relax because they're not going anyplace. And the brunette sees a familiar face from her previous time in the prison, and she greets her friend Jessica, and they have a quick embrace and hellos.
And we learn that her name is Helga, not 97, to us anyway. The blonde, number 99, is concerned about Natalie, number 98, who looks very ill indeed.
She's sitting on the floor and shaking. 99 alerts the others that Natalie appears sick. Helga comes over and says, yep, she needs a fix. That's what she's here for.
Helga says that she was caught with a load of heroin and that's why she's there. Then Zoie says that she'll get the cold water cure if she can take it. Zoie says if you think she looks sick now, wait till tonight.
Zoie tells 99 to lay down and get some sleep. And Helga says to 99 that she's never asked what she was in for. Helga says she slept with the wrong people for the wrong price. And 99? Well, she can tell Helga when she feels like it. 99 is sobbing and obviously not in the mood to socialize, so Helga says she'll go to her own bed.
Now we cut to an office where a man, dressed like a general, but he turns out to be the governor of the prison, is gorging himself on a sumptuous meal like nothing the prisoners will receive, I'm sure. There's a knock on the door and the superintendent enters. This time she's not in that military uniform, but in a gray muumuu. Is she trying to seduce him? She's all smiles now. She greets him as Governor Santos, and the warden calls her Thelma. She asks if he enjoyed himself that evening, and he says he did. The little blonde darling was a good darling. Thelma says she thought he would like her.
The governor asks Thelma about the new arrivals, and Thelma says that there was another little blonde darling among them, and she may be of interest to him. The governor says he must be going, and Thelma says that she never thanked him for coming down so soon after she called for him. But he assures her that she did thank him, and that she can thank him again very soon. After all, he does appreciate gratitude.
In kind. He asks again about number 99, but then tells Thelma she needs to be careful. He saw the marks on the dead girl. That's the second this year. It's not that he cares so much, he trusts her, but the others, like the Minister of Justice, might take an interest. If there's a third death, they might start asking questions, and nobody there wants that. Thelma says she has 100 troubles, but Governor Santos reminds her 99 now. And then he says that on the other side of the island, he has 500 troubles, and they're all men and they're all bastards.
He tells her tomorrow, maybe, to have a look at, and she finishes for him 99. And then they agree that he will be back tomorrow evening. As the governor leaves and Thelma returns to her paperwork, the camera shifts focus to the books on her desk, the most prominent being La Europa de Hitler.
Uh-huh. Later that night, while everyone is sleeping, except Zoie, who's staring at number 99, who is currently having very fitful dreams. Zoie goes over to 99's side to comfort her, or worse. But instead of petting her hair, she just slaps her awake. Zoie tells 99 that she was dreaming. Then we hear Natalie. She really is sick. Even Helga wakes up. But she and Zoie both dismiss number 99's concerns. Natalie's not sick, she just needs drugs. But 99's not convinced. Helga and Zoie ask, what is she, a doctor? But Marie thinks if they make enough noise, they'll send for a doctor, and Natalie can get help. So let's see how that plays out.
No one tries to stop 99 as she runs to the cell door shouting, help, help! Superintendent Thelma Diaz comes downstairs to investigate the ruckus. Thelma tells 99 that the result of insolence is 7 days in the punishment cell. And 99 very politely explains that they need a doctor, to which Thelma replies that the result of repeated insolence is 14 days in the punishment cell.
And the superintendent stomps off, leaving 99 to cry helplessly on her bed. The next day, we see a doctor-type person drawing a blanket over a body in the sick room as a female guard watches. He leaves the room, and the next time we see him, he's walking in an expansive corridor leading up to a door to the outside. He's with Superintendent Thelma, and she says that they found the woman dead in her cell this morning. That's the third one, begins the doctor, but Thelma counters that the first was an accident, and the second one killed herself. This one merely died. The doctor says that she never sent for him before, and Thelma says there's no point. They were found dead. As for this one, they did everything possible, but this isn't a hospital. This is a place for women who deliberately and defiantly disregarded the boundary that society has set down for the rest of us. This is a place where we perform punishment for crime, not operations for ulcers.
Punishment!
Well, she says it very forcefully.
I read punishment in all caps, just that word. So
everything she says is in all caps.
The doctor shakes her hand in farewell and informs her that if there is anything further, she will be hearing from the ministry, and bids her bon adios.
He says he's going to have to file a report, too. I think that drives what happens later in the movie.
The doctor takes a truck to the coast, where his boat back to the mainland is waiting. The boatswain notices that the doctor wasn't long, and the doctor explains that the patient was already dead when he got there. They usually are, said the boatswain. The doctor asks how long she has been the superintendent, and he receives the answer of 10 years. And before that, Thelma was a wardress, and that she'll be there forever. The doctor says, we shall see. And we get to listen to the song, The Day I Was Born, once again.
Now we're on work detail with the women. And we have a new redhead. Helga talks to her about how long she's been there, only 2 weeks. And they find out they're both in for the next year. The new redhead says she doesn't mind hard work, but she hates other things. And by other things, we assume she means Zoie, because that's where the camera goes. Zoie looks pretty smug here. The redhead also says the governor is one of those other things she hates. They both agree he's a swine, and Helga even spits a little. Then Zoie snarks that given Helga's profession, she can't complain about the governor. Helga says that that's her business, and Zoie quips that business must be pretty slack now. And that starts a fight. Helga throws the first punch, and Zoie and Helga fall into the nearby, I guess it's a pool of water. They're on an island, so there's water all around them. And then all the other women get in on the fight. They're either trying to break it up or throwing their own blows.
99 pulls Zoie off of Helga, so now the two of them are fighting. And that's when a guard blows a whistle and breaks up the fight. She tells the two that were fighting, being Zoie and 99, to come with her, and the rest to get back to work. Rosalie asks Helga what's going to happen now, and Helga replies, the worst. That evening, Thelma, in a pink bathrobe, is awaiting the governor's arrival. When he does arrive, he mentions he's heard that he wasn't the first visitor today. No, says Thelma, the doctor was here this morning. The governor reminds her what he said about watching the number of deaths. And Thelma asks, how were they supposed to know that she needed surgery? The governor says it might not have been her fault this time, but the death count is getting high enough to arouse suspicions. Thelma confirms that the doctor will be making a report with the ministry, and that's what the governor is afraid of, a bunch of busybodies poking their noses into things that don't concern them. The ministry is good at catching criminals, says Thelma, but they should leave the punishment to them. But now they want to change the subject, so as Thelma pours the governor a drink, he asks about prisoner 99. Thelma tells him she's being punished along with another of his favorites, number 76.
Yes, he remembers her, Zoie. She's been there a year. Thelma tells him they're both confined together in the sick room. Zoie was hurt in the fight. Governor Santos looks puzzled. So Thelma says, surely you must agree. She must be punished. But then she relents. But I'll leave that in your capable hands. And Governor Santos grunts in agreement. He chuckles that she's running the wrong kind of house here, but Thelma warmly says that she is content just where she is. Now over in the hospital cell, Zoe's attending to her wounded leg, and number 99 is sobbing again. Zoie tells her to shut up, but then limps over to her bed. She's moaning about number 99 and her bitch friend who hurt her, meaning Helga, number 97. Then she sits down and stretches out her legs, lamenting its lost beauty, even though it looks pretty good to me.
And then she goes over to 99 to slap her silly. As she's doing this, the door opens and the governor enters. He seems pleased to see Zoie sprawl over 99 in 99's bed. Two old friends, he says, but not so friendly towards each other. He suggests they make themselves comfortable, and he removes his jacket, and Zoie knows what's coming next. As the governor watches, Zoie reaches over to caress 99, who panics and runs to the door. Zoie grabs 99 and throws her back onto the bed, mounts her, and slaps 99 again. The tone of the music changes to something much less urgent as 99 stops struggling, and Zoie runs her hands all along 99's body. Because this is a Franco film, the focus goes in and out, and there are extreme close-ups of what is obviously skin, but it's not always easy to tell which part.
There's a lot of blackout shots, too. We can't really see anything at all.
Eventually, the governor tires of just watching this, and he moves in to join them as the scene fades to black.
Thank goodness. Now we're back at the shore where another boat is approaching. More prisoners? Not exactly. It's Maria Schell, plus another prisoner. Her name's Magda. Magda's going to be there for 6 months of hard labor. Maria Schell's character, who we'll find out his name, Leonie, doesn't know how long she's going to be there. Magda says open sentences are the worst, and apologizes for bumming her out, talking about prison and stuff.
The two women are brought to the prison, where a guard asks to see their papers. Leonie presents her with a letter saying that this is all that she has, and it's addressed to the superintendent. So Leonie is brought to Superintendent Thelma's office. So in the superintendent's office, Thelma reads the letter, and from what she's reading, she is certain she is being replaced, but Leonie says that leaving is up to Thelma, but Leonie had hoped she'd stay. She says she's never had an appointment in a prison before and hoped that Superintendent Diaz would show her the ropes. But for now, Leonie would like to take a look at the prison.
Thelma tells her that everything is in order, books, ledgers, papers. They have 99 women, as of this morning's count. Seems like Leonie is intent on giving Thelma the benefit of the doubt here. She asks for a tour and is first brought to the regular cells. She walks past Zoe's cell, and Zoie asks who's this new beauty. At this point, Thelma loses it and yells, "Silence!"
As the tour continues, Leonie inquires as to what is down a staircase. Thelma tells her that that's where the punishment cells are located. Leonie asks if anyone is down there, and Thelma says, "One prisoner for repeated insolences." And Leonie asks for how long has she been down there, and Thelma replies for 7 days and 6 nights. Leonie says she would like to see her, but Thelma yells, "No one is allowed!" Leonie gives Thelma a funny look, so Thelma relents very well and has the guard unlock the cell.
Looking inside the cell, we see number 99 hanging by her wrists from some shackles in the walls. Even though she wasn't told to, the guard unshackles her. 99 falls down. The guard tries to force her up, but she really can't walk. Leonie goes down to see her crumpled on the ground. She inquires as to her name. 99 dutifully replies 99, but Leonie wants her real name. Thelma shrieks that prisoners do not have names, but Leonie bites back that she is the one asking the questions. For the first time, we find out that 99's name is Marie. Leonie orders the guards to take her to another cell, and the guard objects. Her sentence was for 2 weeks, but Thelma yells at her this time, "Do as you are told!" And the guard complies. Leonie tells Thelma that she wants to see Marie later, alone. Thelma doesn't complain, but her eyebrows say everything that she's thinking.
Next stop on the tour, Leonie is brought to meet the governor. The governor says that he's been reading the minister's letter, and Leonie says that she has another letter just for him. And then she asks that Thelma prepare the guest room for her stay. "Certainly," says Thelma, but her expression says she's less than delighted to do so.
Her face says, "I'll kill you as soon as it's convenient." But she does leave the two of them alone. The governor reads the letter, and then says, "Miss Leonie Caroll, I'm your boss." Leonie says the minister made that very clear, but he will expect daily reports from her, and the governor agrees. "With copies sent to me," he says. Governor Santos says that he expected her here. "Really?" asks Leonie. He looks at the door and then throws Thelma under the bus. Too many accidents there. Thelma was careless, and he told her so himself. He supposes that Thelma will have to go, but Leonie says that she asked Thelma to stay. "To show you the ropes, I expect," he says. The governor calls her smart and expects that they'll get on well together, and slowly gets up to leave.
He warns her not to let the prisoners think that she's soft, or they'll take advantage of her. She tells him goodbye and says she hopes they'll meet again soon.
He says they will.
So now Marie is brought to her new cell, and she finds her new roommate is Zoie.
This might be solitary, but it just seems to be a different cell that's darker than the original one. But it does seem like the two of them are alone at this point.
Zoie approaches Marie, and Maria says, "Oh no, please," and Zoie says that she's not going to hurt her because she knows just how she feels. Marie asks how could she know, and Zoie says that she felt the same way when she first arrived at the prison. And then, without any prompting, Zoie fills Marie in on her backstory.
Via flashback, of course. At one time, Zoie was a dancer, a good one, and popular too. Too popular for her boss, Grace. In the before time, Zoie learned that her job was taking off her clothes in private for Grace, her boss, and in public for Grace's club customers, a random assortment of men, women, young and old, who gape and gawk at her nude dance routine. It's a really weirdly lit scene in which Zoie is writhing around in almost complete darkness except for a candelabra in front of her, but the customers are standing there gaping at her in what appears to be a museum setting. It's well lit, and they're just standing there, eyes and mouth open, as Zoie dances her special dance to excite her weird customers.
They're probably just as confused as we are because Zoie keeps going in and out of focus.
And light.
As she's writhing on the floor.
She's taking her clothes off, but I guess that's the job. And Grace, her boss, in particular, seems taken with her because we'd see a shot of her watching on lasciviously, we're supposed to think, more so than the others.
And Zoie continues her story, saying that one night, Caroll came to the club, and for that night, Zoie danced in the arms of the man she loved. But the entire night, she could also feel Grace's eyes on her. That evening, when Zoie returned to her room, she found Grace already there.
Wearing a see-through blue peignoir. She changed from what she was wearing earlier.
Grace tells Zoie that she can never see Caroll again, and Zoie refuses. "Bitch," says Grace, jamming a gun into Zoe's throat. They struggle, and in the struggle, Grace gets shot.
Grace falls to the floor, nearly nude and completely dead. That always happens. The gun goes off, and it's always the person who brought the gun that gets killed.
Now we're back in the present, and Marie tells Zoie she's sorry. She reaches for Zoe's hand, but Zoie takes her hand with her other hand. Marie gently kisses Zoie on the chin. They embrace. Then Zoie surrenders herself as Marie caresses Zoe's chest.
But at least this time it's consensual. Exterior castle. Interior, Thelma and the governor are playing chess. Thelma agrees that Leonie is no dummy and wonders aloud if Leonie isn't there to observe him too. The governor finds this amusing. With his record, the minister has to trust him. Thelma plants the idea that Leonie has been sending reports back to the minister without telling the governor about them. The governor ponders this for a while and seems to agree that this is possible, so concludes that he should start making his own reports and send them to the minister himself. But for what? Thelma hints that Leonie is making friends amongst the prisoners, which he had warned her not to do. So perhaps Leonie is more interested in them than him? She does her weird laugh. I wrote that down. Weird laugh here.
The governor thinks he can work with this and asks for a pen and paper.
And all the dirt. Thelma plans to comply with this and also record her own observations.
Now it's mealtime. The prisoners are all stuffed into the tiny mess hall. I counted 14 out of the 99 able to fit in this room.
Well, they take shifts, I'm sure.
Helga asks Marie why she was brought out of solitary, and Marie doesn't know. But this new Leonie Caroll, she seems pretty kind.
Helga tells her, don't be fooled. She's probably worse than the old bitch. But Zoie thinks that this new woman seems normal.
A guard comes by and tells Marie to come with her, so Marie follows her. Marie is brought to Leonie's room. Leonie tells Marie to take a seat and begins questioning her. Why were you punished, she asked. For asking for help. Help for what? Another girl needed a doctor. Where is this girl now? She's dead. And how long has Marie been here? 7 days. All the time in the punishment cell? At this, Marie starts to cry.
Leonie comforts her and asks for Marie's backstory. Now we have another flashback. This is very artfully done, like the first one almost was. Marie was waiting for a bus that never came. Then a man on her motorcycle offered to drive her wherever she needed to go. And she made the huge mistake of going with him. He drove her to a gang rape. We see a bunch of men wearing sacks over their heads with red lips painted on them, and they attack her. It's mostly done in shadow. We don't really see anything brutal or graphic. We can tell these men are raping her, and it's kind of scary. It turns out that one of the men had a knife, and during the attack, she managed to grab it and stabbed at him, and then his blood was all over her face. Back in the present, Leonie challenges that account. She was tried and found guilty. Because no one would listen to me, sobs Marie. Leonie chimes in that she sold herself for money and killed a man who wouldn't pay. Marie, who's always crying, cries even harder at being accused again. But Leonie tells her to stop crying. She believes her, although every prisoner claims innocence, but only a few are telling the truth. She offers to send for the paperwork on Marie's case, while cautioning her that her chances for an appeal are very low.
Then she sends Marie back to her room. Now the prisoners are out working again. It looks like they're gathering salt and putting it in piles.
That's all we could figure out.
Helga notices a few men from the other prison working nearby. Except for the governor, they don't see too many men these days. Rosalie recognizes one of them as Juan Diego. This Diego motions for Rosalie to sneak away so he can talk to her, so Helga goes over to the guard to distract her, while Rosalie goes off to meet with Diego. Diego tells Rosalie that he and another are planning an escape. There is a jetty a half-mile south of the village, and if she can meet them there, they can all leave together. They kiss, and Rosalie runs back before her absence is noticed.
As Rosalie returns, Helga is still lamely trying to distract the guard, only to give up as soon as she sees Rosalie return.
That night, it appears that some of the women have been moved to different, smaller, tighter cells. Marie wakes up to see Zoie enjoying the company of another prisoner. "What's the matter with you?" says Zoie. "You can go back to your new friend."
The way Leonie feels about her, Marie's going to stay there for life. Life. Then we cut to Thelma bringing Leonie a letter. She announces that a prisoner wants to see her. She asks which one, and of course it's 99. Leonie says she'll see her in a moment and asks if there's anything else that she can do for Thelma. Thelma shares her grievance. Leonie canceled the night watch. Leonie says there was no point. If they get out, escapees have nowhere to go. Thelma shouts, "There's a fishing village on the other side of the island." Leonie counters that there's 30 miles of thick jungle and swamp blocking the path. But Thelma says that there's also working gangs of male prisoners out there. "Yes, guarded by wardens," says Leonie. Thelma rocks back and forth in frustration. The night guards stop trouble before it starts. Then Leonie really starts pushing Thelma's buttons by suggesting that they could make the prison a bit more friendly. Thelma seems on the verge of exploding as she barks out that the purpose of a prison is punishing crimes. It's not meant to be a happy place. Leonie says that in that case, your work here can be considered very successful. Thelma said that until Leonie arrived, the prisoners had no complaints. Leonie says that it appears that some who might have complained did not survive. Thelma asks again if Leonie's trying to get rid of her. Leonie says, doesn't Thelma ever feel a sense of hopelessness? Thelma says no, but if she thought the way Leonie did, she would. Then she asks that Thelma send in the prisoner. Thelma chokes on the words, "Very well."
Marie is lounging on her cot and Helga is sitting with her. Helga says she's hungry, and when Marie says she is too, Helga suggests that maybe Marie should talk to her new friend about the food. Marie says that she's only seen Leonie that one time, and Zoie says, "Come on, everyone knows you're her pet." Then for some reason, Helga goes over to challenge Zoie. Zoie stands and another fight begins. Whistles are blown and Thelma runs in to stop the fight. Leonie follows and asks what happened. Zoie says Helga tried to hit her. When pressed why, Zoie says it was because Zoie said she preferred men, not like somebody. Helga says Zoe's lying and she's the one who started the fight. Leonie orders that their food be brought to them. And Thelma has a little tantrum and says they should be punished, but Leonie insists no more punishment. Helga looks like she can't believe her good fortune.
Then we cut to Marie being brought to Leonie's office/bedroom. Leonie tells her right away that she has bad news. They're not going to reopen her case. Marie wants to see the letter that says so, but Leonie says she tore it up. Marie tells her what Zoie said, that Leonie's not going to let her leave. Leonie wonders why she would say that for an instant, and then it clicks. "Oh no," she says. Marie says, "You can't stop me," and runs off.
So Marie is back in her cell, moping. Helga tells her to cheer up, that she still may be able to get out of there. There's a cutaway to a guard walking down the hall and giving a key to number 38. Back in our cell, Helga and Rosalie and Marie are speaking about their escape plan. It won't be easy, but not impossible. Marie is up for it. The guard we previously saw walking down the hall comes to the cell and reminds 76, Zoie, of the new regulations. If a fellow inmate is sick during the night, make sure she is actually sick and then ring the bell to alert the warden. If the warden is awakened without cause, there will be punishment.
Zoie is now in possession to a key to the cell. Later, don't know when, Rosalie starts to feign illness. Zoie goes over to see if she's sick, as she was told. Then Marie and Helga jump her.
Helga grabs Zoie from behind, covering her mouth. Zoie is brought to the floor, and immediately Helga, Rosalie, and Marie are upon her. Helga says if Zoie makes a sound, she'll kill her. Marie smacks Zoie across the face as Helga grabs the key, and the trio make their escape.
And this is the escape. We're at the top of the castle. They throw their makeshift rope, a bunch of sheets tied together, over the top of the castle, and the three women climb down. It is decidedly not night at this point. The sky is bright blue. The sun is dappling the jungle leaves, and it's bright as fuck outside.
They barely get into the jungle when Rosalie is already exhausted. But an alarm sounds, and they must continue. As they go on, Rosalie sees a snake. Helga grabs a knife and slices at it a bit. Then she throws it down, and it slithers off as the trio runs on.
Probably would have left them alone if they just stepped over it. And it does look like she really stabbed a real snake, too, to me.
After a short while, Marie asks Helga if they can't stop and rest. But Helga has found a pool of swamp water, so they decide to cool off. They jump in, then start stripping their clothes, and they are surprised to see a man perched on a log watching them.
But they aren't really that alarmed. Helga notices that they both have the same tailor, so this is obviously another prisoner. Helga joins him atop his little tree bridge, and then Rosalie does too. She asks if he knows Juan Diego. He does, unfortunately. The man gives Rosalie a handkerchief. It's hers. She had given it to Diego. She asks again about where Diego is, but apparently he was killed when he tried to escape. Rosalie is distraught and clings to this man for comfort.
They can hear the sound of barking dogs in the distance, so they all have to keep moving to avoid this manhunt. And their best chance for escape now, unfortunately, is to head back toward the mountain and away from the sea. The four of them hide as the search party goes by. When the coast is clear and they continue, Rosalie says that she can't go on, but the man grabs onto her and helps her along.
Later on, we find them in a cave. Rosalie seems very ill. She's cold. By way of trying to comfort her, I guess, Marie says that she too used to have a boyfriend, but hers is still alive. But he didn't believe her story either. Now he wants nothing to do with her. I don't know how that's supposed to help Rosalie. Helga, on the other hand, wants a cigarette. She's nostalgic for smoking in bed after sex.
She even offers her kingdom.
I don't think either one is very sensitive to Rosalie's suffering.
Anyway, the man whose name we never learn and Helga start to build a fire. Marie is concerned that the light of the fire might attract attention, but the others assure her that no one will be able to see it within the cave. Helga asks how Rosalie is doing, and Marie says that they'll have to help her tomorrow, that Rosalie shouldn't be walking for a few days. The man says they should all gather around the fire and sleep close together, for warmth. So Marie snuggles up to Helga for story time. Helga tells her of a prince that had all the food and drink he could possibly ever want. The end.
Well, Marie's asleep at this point. And then Rosalie decides to find her warmth with the man whose name we never learn. She crawls onto his lap and starts crying. She asks if he and Diego were close, like brothers, he says. Did he talk about me, she asks. He said you were the most beautiful girl in the world. She asks, did he say my name with his last breath?
He replies that Diego asked him to find her, to help her, to like her, to love her. Rosalie says that she loved Diego very much, but since he's gone now, this is okay.
And they do it. Marie wakes up, sees them doing it, and for some reason throws herself against the wall of the cave and watches lustfully doing, well, you can imagine what.
Helga wakes up to see Marie pressing herself against the cave wall, then rolls her eyes and rolls over and goes back to sleep.
It's pretty weird.
But the next morning, the four of them are back on the move. Rosalie needs help, and the man is happy to assist. He tells the others that this is the way to the fishing village. They have boats there, and maybe they can steal one. Don't let's waste time, says Helga.
And then we argued about whether that's grammatically correct or not. I think it is. It's just a very odd turn of phrase.
They come across a group of male prisoners who are stopping their work for their 30-minute meal break.
They're supervised by guards, so the man, whose name we don't know, sneaks over behind one of the men whose name is Freddy.
Yeah, we know Freddy's name.
Yeah, we know Freddy's name. Freddy gives the mystery man some food. And then, for reasons I can't explain, it seems like this man points to the women. And then we see the men see the women, and it seems they are now hungry for female flesh rather than sandwiches.
So they knock out the guards and go after their newfound bounty. The three women and the man run off, but the man falls back to stop the pursuers. He tells them to leave the women alone, that they're only trying to escape, but these men don't care. They know what they want. A shot rings out, and the man is shot and falls to the ground, so the other prisoners start to scatter. From up ahead, Helga, Marie, and Rosalie hear the shot as well. Rosalie wants to go back and help her new friend, and Helga and Marie can't convince her otherwise. So Rosalie runs back in the direction of the mob, and she is immediately gang raped.
And it's horrible. Helga and Marie hesitate for a second for Rosalie's sake, but they can't risk it. The same thing would happen to them. And then later we see Rosalie's dead, nude body. Ugh.
Being left to rot in the jungle. Finally, Helga and Marie have made it to the village. They run out into the water towards a boat, but another shot rings out. They turn to see the governor standing there with some of his men. The governor says he's been waiting for them all day.
It's kind of obvious where they were going to go. Now we're back with Helga. She's in a solitary cell, screaming in frustration. Marie is back to sobbing uselessly. They're in big trouble.
But solitary isn't their only punishment. Helga and Marie are brought in to be whipped. Following this torture, Thelma says they are to be placed in a punishment cell. Leonie thinks a hospital cell would be more appropriate, but the governor jumps in and says the regulations for punishment for attempted escape are very explicit.
And he says they can be punished again in 2 days. Although Leonie protests, the general says that the minister will support him in this punishment, so she has no one to turn to. As Helga is taken away, she spits in the governor's face. But I bet he likes that.
Then Marie and Helga are escorted to the main cell instead of these punishment cells they're supposed to go to, which is a big mistake because the inmates take down the guard, and then they all escape running out into the halls. There's a riot going on.
Yeah, they even let out some prisoners in other cells, too.
In her office, Thelma tells Leonie that this is all her fault. And how does she propose to deal with this? Leonie says by talking to them, and maybe they'll listen to her. So as the escapees run down the hall, Leonie charges toward them. She tries to talk to them, but they aren't having it. Leonie tries to convince them that changes can be made. Leonie tells them she's trying to help them, and Marie says, yeah, like you helped me. And Helga spits in her face, too.
She's a spitter. They run off away from Leonie, but then more guards come in and they have clubs and they put it all down. In Thelma's office, the governor's addressing Leonie. He gathers that she decided to go. Leonie says that she's leaving before the ministry decides for her. Leonie recounts her many failures, 3 escapes and a riot. With that, a return to unremitting discipline was inevitable.
It seems Leonie has a severe case of humanity, and a prison isn't the place for her. She leaves, and Thelma asks the governor if, since he's already here, he'll be staying late tonight. And he decides he might as well. I'm sure he could find some way to pass the time.
This makes Thelma chuckle gleefully. And then that ubiquitous theme song plays as Leonie walks out through the courtyard, and all the prisoners watch her go. Only Zoie seems happy to see her leave. And that's the end.
You're listening to the American International Podcast, where we are discussing 99 Women from 1969.
99 Women was produced by Harry Ellen Towers as an international co-production. I found an article in the LA Times in March of 1967 that reported that producer Bernard Glasser had purchased the screenplay 99 Women by Richard Collins from Robert L. Lippert and Associates. Glasser had planned to start production on the women's prison drama later that spring, according to the article. However, Collins is not listed among the people who get screenwriting credit for this movie, whether in the English language version or the other versions.
The film was shot in Valencia, Spain, with some exteriors being shot in Brazil and some interior shots done in Madrid and Rome. The film's location was apparently an island near Panama, though the film does not spell that out.
Bruno Mattei shot 20 minutes of pornographic footage that was not in the AIP cut of this film, but was later edited into other versions of the film.
The U.S. title was obviously taken from Maria Rome's prison number. The original title was Der heiße Tod, or The Hot Death.
Did seem pretty warm there. 99 Women was released in the U.S. on March 5th of 1969 when it premiered in San Francisco, and it had the following international release dates. In West Germany, March 14th, 1969. In Madrid, June 16th, 1969. And in Rome, it was released on June 18th, 1969. In the U.S., 99 Women had a wider release on April 23rd, and it was subsequently released in L.A. on April 30th, and in New York City on May 21st.
The Pacific Drive-In Theater in Los Angeles placed a special notice in their theater ad that 99 Women was one of a handful of pictures they were showing that were not suitable for children who absolutely would not be admitted.
99 Women was re-released on a triple bill in 1970 with That Cold Day in the Park and Paranoia. AIP released it under their own banner, and it was even shown on television in Canada through AIP and their Telefilms of Canada distribution arm.
Taglines for 99 Women include 99 women behind bars without men. What do they do to satisfy their innermost female desires?
One soul hunger to touch another.
One girl's shock awakening from innocence to the raw realism of prison life among women without men.
Now you can see it for the first time, as it really is, in all its raw realism.
Due to the subject matter of this film, no one under 17 will be admitted.
Whisper to your friends you saw it.
In its first week, 99 Women took in $18,000, that's $1969, in the U.S. on 3 screens. By the time it got released nationwide, it was the #1 movie, and when it reached New York a few weeks later, it premiered as the #2 movie in the country with a gross of over $700,000. 4 weeks later, it had fallen off the chart again, but it earned almost $800,000 by that time.
That was just its initial release, so it probably made a lot more money. However, the New York Times did not review it favorably. A.H. Weiler wrote, 99 Women opened a window at local theaters yesterday through which indiscriminate voyeurs can gape without much satisfaction. What is unfolded in lackluster color and similar performances is the story of a sadistic warden, Miss McCambridge, the compassionate lady sent to replace her, Miss Schell. The plot involves the relationships with a handful of the 99, all of whom are unexpectedly well-endowed, sexually driven types. There's little that is hot in 99 Women, even though these unlikely inmates wear the shortest shifts ever seen in any movie prison.
In Kevin Thomas's LA Times review, he wrote, when a picture is as thoroughly preposterous as 99 Women, even the depiction of brutality becomes funny, like in a cartoon. It's aimed strictly at the level of mentality of those whose lips move when they read comic books. The review later described the plot, saying, after 10 years, Miss McCambridge has let so many of her prisoners die that the Ministry of Justice sends sociologist Maria Schell, that famous smile intact, to observe for a month. The plot, which becomes increasingly ludicrous, is not worth further description.
An anonymous reviewer in the Monthly Film Bulletin reviewed a 70-minute version and found it to be a crude women's prison melodrama with a turgid script that rambles coyly on about lesbianism, flogging, and the kinky pleasures of the governor of a men's prison, concluding that the film was all very tame and unremittingly tedious.
Due to its success, 99 Women has been called the film that sent the women in prison genre in a new direction, as opposed to the 1950s releases like AIP's Reformed Schoolgirls or Girls in Prison, which was, by comparison, less exploitative.
There's more to this movie than the version we saw, of course, as we've mentioned. On February 22nd, 2005, Blue Underground released an unrated DVD of the English-language director's cut, featuring deleted and alternate scenes, and an X-rated release of the French version, featuring 8 minutes of hardcore shots with actors not part of the film's main production.
Not directly related to the film, but still of interest, Mercedes McCambridge was called the world's greatest living radio actress by Orson Welles and won an Academy Award for her first film, All the King's Men. She later voiced the demon possessing Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
So she's got range. And the song we heard throughout the film, which apparently was called The Day I Was Born, was sung by Barbara McNair.
Well, to start out, Cheryl, I'm going to put it out there that I have never been a fan of anything I've seen that Jess Franco has ever done.
And I'm not a big fan of women in prison movies, to be honest. I did like Savage Sisters, which is part of the genre, and that movie was a lot of fun. This movie was not fun.
Well, Savage Sister was kind of a parody of those films.
I can see that. I will say that some of the parts I liked best about this movie were probably the parts we weren't supposed to like. And for me, that was Mercedes McCambridge's performance. I thought she was hilarious.
She was definitely the best part of this movie.
She was like a bright spot in a pretty dull movie, I think. I didn't find it very exciting. It's a little titillating, but not very. It's the version we saw. It's just sort of an exercise in hopelessness. But she's hysterical. It's worth watching just for her.
Yeah, I've seen a few women in prison films, and I don't know if this has ever been done, but when Maria Schell's character came in, what would it have been like if she was there to make things even worse instead of trying to reform everything and make it better?
Oh, she and Thelma could have teamed up and they could have just run roughshod over the women. That would have been fun.
No, I'm talking if she came in and kind of took over. Thelma's gone.
Oh.
She comes in all blonde and smiling.
But deeply evil inside?
Yeah.
Behind that facade? It would have at least been unpredictable.
I think that would have been an interesting thing to see. I don't know if that's ever been done in the genre. It probably has. There's a ton of these movies.
Oh, yeah. It's the little switcheroo that you don't expect. Yeah, because I think what she did was actually worse than what Thelma did, because she gave them false hope, which is worse than no hope. So in a way, she actually was kind of crueler than the existing prison hierarchy.
Well, I think the only one she really gave hope to was Marie. And she let her down pretty early on by ripping up that letter that she supposedly had returned to her.
Yeah, which we don't know for sure. So we don't know if we can trust her either. It's kind of a weird thing for her to do. Why not just save it and show it to Marie so she can see it with her own eyes? So maybe she was a little bit on the evil side. You might be onto something. Do you think this movie suffered from having not enough sexy scenes? The one goof that's listed in IMDb for this movie is that there's no shower scene in this movie.
No, but they do splash around in swamp water.
But not naked.
No, not naked.
Just in their thigh-high black stockings. That's pretty ridiculous. But do you think it needed more sex? Would that have made it a little more palatable?
What I really like about sex scenes in these movies is that when I'm taking notes, it goes really fast because I get basically a break where I could just write they had sex.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, sex scenes and dancing sequences, I can always use more of those.
Anything that is nonverbal and we don't have to worry about what's being said.
Exactly.
What about those flashback scenes? I thought they were kind of silly and it looked like somebody was trying to do an art house movie.
Well, that's kind of just Franco's thing. He tries to be artistic, and I know he has a lot of fans, and I will probably never understand why. He's a very prolific director. He's directed hundreds of films, and maybe there are some good ones in there that I just haven't seen. I've seen more than I would probably care to.
I have not seen that many, if any, more than this one.
Well, he did The Girl from Rio, which I know you've seen,
the
sequel to Sumeru.
Yeah. We didn't have to watch that movie for this podcast. And I fell asleep during that.
We could. But we do have a few more coming on. I know that Maria Schell will return in Night of the Blood Monster, which is another Jess Franco direction, starring Christopher Lee.
Well, maybe that one will be better.
I think the biggest issue I had with this film was Maria Rum's character being referred to as 99, because to me, 99 should be Barbara Feldon and nobody else.
Yeah, they didn't think about that, did they? They didn't give out a lot of names during this either. You either caught it incidentally or you didn't. By the time we find out Marie's name, the movie's like half over. We never learned the name of that guy in the jungle that Rosalie had sex with and who basically got them killed, got them both killed. It's just weird. I guess dehumanizing, and that might be the point, but it's hard to talk about them when they don't have names. He didn't even have a number.
And the cast in this film is obviously much bigger than the credited cast. I guess this is still before SAG got involved and said everybody gets a credit. But with all that said, while this film might drag in places, it's still an important film in history just because it created this genre of the women in prison film as it would evolve from this point on.
Yeah, I was surprised to find out that this was the movie that did it. And it's not surprising because it was actually pretty successful.
That's probably more surprising that it was successful than that they actually created a genre.
Well, it must have satisfied what people were looking for. They didn't know they wanted it back in 1969, and yet they did. The #1 movie. It's hard to believe.
And you mentioned in the research that you did that the exteriors were shot in Rio de Janeiro, and that was actually done a week off from shooting The Girl from Rio.
Oh, wow.
What happened was they were done shooting, but they wanted to shoot some footage of a parade, but they had a week to kill before that happened. So they got a lot of this 99 women done in the meantime, because you can't just sit down for a week if you're a filmmaker and not do anything.
Right.
And both were produced by Harry Alan Towers. So
they both starred his wife.
And they both featured Maria Rum, yeah.
He spelled her name wrong in the credits, though. That had to cause some awkward conversations at home.
And we did find that one review that mentioned Maria Schell's smile. And when she came on screen, I said, I know her from somewhere. And I realized it was Superman the movie.
Oh, right. Yeah, I looked up her credits. She's been in a lot of stuff that I remember. I just don't remember her that much.
Because even when I was a kid and I first saw Superman, I thought, who is this woman with this condescending smile coming towards me? Yeah, she plays the council members from Krypton. And Jor-El is trying to convince them that the planet's going to blow up. And she goes, it isn't that we question your data. The facts are undeniable. And then she kind of slinks over to Jor-El with this big grin on her face, this big evil grin on her face, and says, it's your conclusions that we find unsupportable.
It's hard to trust somebody who smiles all the time.
It really is. And it's a little unnerving. She gave me the creeps as a kid.
I thought she was really patronizing. She just had this sort of poor, stupid little you expression on her face the whole time until she had to eat crow at the end. And
it's either that or she's just stifling a laugh and you can't tell. But either way, you don't want that happening in a conversation with a person.
No, it makes you question what you're saying. And if you're right, it makes you doubt yourself.
So it might have been interesting to see her have played the Thelma Diaz part, smiling the whole time and then yelling, and seeing that contrast in what she's saying and the expression on her face. It would just be an unnerving thing to see. Prisoners don't have names. Smile.
Yeah, I can see that. I do like movies that do that take what you expect and flip it over. This movie really didn't do that. But had it done that, it would have been a lot more interesting.
So they don't make many women in prison films these days, but if someone out there wants to go ahead, you can go ahead and take some of our ideas. Just give us a little credit.
Yeah. Story by Cheryl and Jeff.
But this film, 99 Women, what did you really think of it, Cheryl?
Well, using our AIP scale, where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic, I think it lands squarely in the middle, intermediate for me. It's not unwatchable. It's watchable. There are some acting choices that are, I should say, cast choices that I think could have been better. I don't think Maria Rohn is that great in everything that she does. She's pretty useless here as a character. And as an actress, she's not forceful enough to really make us care about her. She just cries all the time and then gets manipulated into sex. And that's not very interesting. And I kind of take it that she was kind of the main character, the one that we're really supposed to be rooting for, that we're seeing most of this from her POV most of the time. And I just wasn't that invested in her story. I thought that Thelma was a lot more interesting. She's evil, but at least she's interesting. So I would have liked to know more about her, to see if maybe she really had a thing for the governor, because she always was wearing a dress when he came over, pink muumuu, gray muumuu. She dressed up for him, but she was also his procuress, finding him nubile young women to rape. So interesting dynamic there that they could have explored a little more.
Yeah, we didn't get to hear her backstory.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't see her flashback.
And the governor was pretty much what you'd expect. He's just a gross guy who likes to sleep with prisoners that have no choice. So I think the real clash was between Leonie and Thelma, but we always had to go back to the prisoners after they had their interactions, which were the most entertaining parts of the movie. And the prisoners just weren't that interesting. They were just kind of horny and wanted to get out. They had nothing else going on for them. So I can't really give it anything better than an I, but it did sustain interest enough that I'll give it an intermediate. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. The conflict between Leonie and Thelma was really what drove the story here, I think. I mean, obviously, it's a women in prison film. The prisoners want to escape, and that's the crux of the story. But it definitely wasn't the most interesting aspect of the story.
It was just, I guess, what the plot needed to keep it moving forward and keep us returning to the parts that we really cared about. They had to do stuff to increase the conflict between Thelma and Leonie.
And Maria Rohn being what is supposed to be the most relatable character in this film. And you're right, she doesn't do very much more than cry, but I think she stood out more in this than the other stuff that I've seen her in. We saw her in Sumeru. She's in The Girl from Rio. We saw her in House of a Thousand Dolls.
Mm-hmm. I don't even remember her in that movie.
Pretty forgettable in all those.
She did grab the snake in this movie by the head so that Helga could stab it. So she had that burst of bravery right there. She didn't just cry against the tree. I guess that character trait was transferred to Rosalie, who became the useless one of the trio. It would have been interesting if Luciana Paluzzi had gotten more to do. She was the top billed actress. She was a Bond girl.
That's probably why she didn't have more to do. They probably couldn't afford her.
Maybe.
She had probably a day's work.
But I think she might have been better as our number 99 than Maria Rohn was. But we'll never know.
Nope, because she didn't marry Harry Allen Towers, so she wouldn't have had the chance.
Boy, sometimes you get a break and sometimes you marry a break.
But as for my rating, I would give it the same. It's not a good movie. It's an important film, and it's an okay watch. It's not one I'm going to be revisiting anytime soon, but I don't hate myself for having to see it. It's an eye for me.
There are a couple of rape scenes, and obviously anyone who's ever listened to me before on this podcast knows I'm not a fan, but at least I got them over with pretty quick.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because they're rape scenes, but they don't end up as rape scenes.
Well,
because of the music.
Rosalie did.
Because of the music. Okay, Rosalie did.
Yeah, that was the worst one. But when Zoie raped Marie, you're right, they changed the music, and all of a sudden it's a seduction, but she knocked her out. But then it plays
the black before the governor joins in, so...
Yeah, and that would definitely be a lot ickier. And who knows what was in the uncut version? Maybe there was more of that? But they said they used characters that weren't even part of the movie for those scenes.
I don't know. I haven't seen that version.
I don't want to either. They always gloss over those. Like, it's titillating, and people expect that, and they throw them in to, I guess, feed that expectation. But I don't like watching them, and I could do without the women getting raped as their character journey mechanism. We don't need that anymore.
So with that, we're going to give a suspended sentence to this episode of the American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
And I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.